Hello everybody and welcome to your next AllegroHD tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be learning about screen scrolling, which is a topic that everybody really loves. So let us get into screen scrolling. So in Allegro, screen scrolling is handled differently than other APIs. Well, some APIs might handle it the same way, but all APIs can do it differently depending on which one you're using. The method we're going to be using now is that we're going to be justifying where on the buffer we should start drawing from and when we should start ending drawing from. And therefore, once we justify those 2 points, we can simulate or create an illusion that the screen is in fact scrolling. So different APIs can do different things. Even Allegro can do this. There's different methods for screen scrolling. You can scroll the background if you want to. Just scroll the map when the player reaches a certain point in the screen, etc., etc. The method I'm teaching now is just going to be teaching the easy way about going about it. Just drawing certain section of the map when you're supposed to draw it. So if that doesn't make sense to you, you'll understand what I mean by the end of this tutorial. So right here I have a camera function, and it takes two things in the parameter, 2 pointers, one called camera and one called player. So I'm gonna be putting in two arrays in there. That's why I have the pointers there. So the arrays are gonna have two elements in there. So it's gonna be a 1D array with two elements. So the first element is going to represent the x coordinate, and the second element is going to represent the y coordinate. So camera 0 is going to be equal to x, and camera 1 is going to be equal to y. Same thing for player. Player 0 is going to represent x, and player 1 is going to represent y. Simple enough. So how do we calculate where the camera position should start drawing? So this is what we do. We say camera x is equal to negative screen width divided by 2 plus player 0 or player x. Now, what is that doing here for us? Well, if you look at the top right here, our screen width is equal to 800. So say our player is at the pixel 405. Okay, it's gonna say negative 800 divided by 2. So it's gonna say 800 divided by 2 is equal to 400. And then since there's a negative sign there, it's going to be negative 400. So negative 400 plus 405 is equal to 5. So it's going to say camera x is equal to 5, and therefore we should start drawing from pixel 5. So essentially the player is always going to be centered within the screen, but it's going to show different portions of the map, so it's going to look as though the player is walking through the game world. The player's position, the player's x position is still going to be increasing, but it's going to scroll the map. It's not scrolling the map, it's basically showing different sections of the map so that it gives you the illusion of the screen actually scrolling. We do the same thing for camera y. So we say negative screen height, this time divided by 2 plus player y, or player 1 in this instance. So what we want to do is that we want to say that if camera x or camera 0 is less than 0, then we reset it back to 0, and same thing for camera y. The reason being is that say our player's x position is equal to 0. Negative 400 plus 0 is equal to negative 400, and therefore the camera is going to start drawing from pixel negative 400. We don't want to do that. We always want to start drawing from the pixel 0, and if the player is greater than the center of the screen, then we start drawing positive. We start drawing from the camera can increase or decrease depending on the position. So let us scroll down into our main function. So in our main function we have two new variables, or three new variables in fact. We have a player position with two elements, our x position, our y position, and the camera, our x position and y position. And you don't really have to set this because our camera function is actually going to set our y position, our x position, but just in case you can keep it, you can do that if you like to. And we have our move speed because we're going to have a box that's going to move around our screen so we can see where it starts scrolling, etc. So in our main function, we have directional buttons. If they press right, the player moves towards the right. If they press left, the player moves towards the left, etc., etc. This shouldn't be new to you. If it is, then I suggest you go back to my later tutorials. So this is essentially the same code from the last tutorial. So we're loading the maps on the fly. So we load our map and we draw our map. Then we want to set our camera position to show which section of the map we're actually going to be displaying. So we put in the camera position in there and the player position in there. So what this is going to do is calculate the camera's X and the camera's Y. So we draw a rectangle representing our player's position, and then the blip function is what's going to make all the magic happen. Now we can set where we want to start drawing from, but how is the buffer going to know, or how is the game going to know where we start drawing from? The game doesn't know it. We have to tell it what to do. So this is the magic of the blip function. The blip function, we've always ignored the parameters except for drawing the buffer to the screen and just setting screen width and screen height, but we haven't explored it in depth. So I'm going to be showing you what the different parameters do. And if you've done your research and know what it does, then you're already a step ahead. So the first parameter in the blip function, it takes what we're drawing and what we want to draw to. Those are the first two parameters. So we're drawing our buffer to the screen. That shouldn't be new to you guys. So our third and fourth parameter is our source X and our source Y, and generally that just means where we start drawing from on our image or whatever. So basically it's going to say where we start drawing from in our buffer. Say we had an image here, say we had a sprite sheet, just like we did character animation and we had to draw from a certain section. It's essentially the same way when we're working with the camera position. So it's going to say where we start drawing from on the buffer, the camera and the camera Y, and if you can envision it as a sprite sheet. So we start drawing from the camera's X position, the camera's Y position. Our destination is 0, 0 because we want to draw our map starting from the top left of the screen. When we were working with sprite sheets, our destination will be the player's position because that's the position where the sprite should be on the screen. The starting position of our map should be drawn at the coordinate 0, 0. So that should always be 0, 0. Unless you have some weird thing going on with your map, some special level or whatever, and that's what you choose to do. But by default, this should be 0 and 0. And how wide our map is going to be and how tall our map is going to be. So that's screen width and screen height. So say camera position is equal to 5. It's going to say start drawing from pixel 5. And since our screen width is 800, it's going to say end drawing at pixel 805. So if our camera position X is equal to 10, it's going to say end drawing at pixel 810 or 810. And therefore you will get a smooth animation in your game. And don't forget to clear the bitmap and destroy the bitmap. Now before I run this program, there's one thing I should clear up. Now if you guys have done your research, when we create our screen, there's two parameters that we always set to 0 and 0, and this is the virtual width and virtual height. This is essentially it was built to actually handle screen scrolling for you. So you would do the actual height that you want for your map, the virtual height and the virtual width, and it would handle screen scrolling for you. But it is really not effective. It's not really cross-platform. It doesn't really work properly. I tried it once. It made my programs crash. So I wouldn't advise that. And you become a better programmer when you learn how to do it this way, because other APIs might not have the functionality of having a virtual width and a virtual height. So just get used to that. That should be something that should be second nature to you. So that is it, and let us run this program. So when we run this, when the player hits the center of the screen, it starts to scroll. So the map it shows different sections of the map, and then therefore it looks like the map is actually scrolling. So now we want to there's one last thing that you guys might be asking me, and I'm going to clarify it right now. So say the map is larger than the screen, like you've seen over there. Say a section of the map is larger than the screen. What you'd want to figure out, you don't want your camera to show off the map. You want it to only show what the player should be reaching. So what you would want to do is that, say the last pixel is, say, at the pixel 1600. You would know that your camera X, say it was 1600 in the X coordinates, you would know that your camera X couldn't go past 800. Because if your camera X passed 800, say your camera X was equal to 801, it would start drawing from pixel 801 and end drawing at pixel 1601, and pixel 1601 is going to be off the map. So therefore, what you want to do is find out the last pixel and find out if the last pixel subtract the screen width if the camera Y is not greater than that. So I know I just confused my words and I just mixed that up. So essentially I'm going to show you the code to make you understand it. So if camera X is greater than the last pixel, subtract screen width, therefore camera 0 would be equal to last pixel subtract screen width. And the same thing for the Y coordinate. You would do the same thing. The last pixel Y subtract screen width. Subtract screen height. And therefore the player would never be able to go off the map, and the camera would never show it off the map. So that is it for this tutorial. Hope you enjoyed this and have fun with screen scrolling. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna see a lot of cool games. So if you guys make some games using screen scrolling in Allegro, it'll be nice to post in the project folder on my website, codingmadeeasy.ca, for the world to see. And if it's a really good game, then I'll feature it on my website. So that is it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and bye.